안녕하세요, 여러분. 준이입니다. 오늘은 좋다, 좋아하다, 싫다, 싫어하다 차이가 무엇인지 알려줄게요. So, 좋아요, 좋아해요, 싫어요, 싫어해요. What's the difference? You know, it seems like something impossible to know, but it's actually quite easy. Now, whether you will be able to memorize it is another thing. For me, this also took me a little while. As with things in Korean, you can't expect to learn it you can't expect to learn it the very first time around that you look at something. You can't, sometimes a lesson, you can look at it once and you're like, I got it. But I feel like 70% of the time, it takes a few tries before you really get something down, learn it, memorize it. So, 좋다 and 좋아하다, they can both mean to like something, right? But their use is pretty different. And I would say, for this meaning of, it can't always be interchanged. Like, it's commonly mixed up by Korean learners just because of the translation. Because 좋다 can often be translated to like, but its main meaning is just to be good, right? And I would say that 좋다 is an adjective, like straight up adjective, whereas 좋아하다 I would refer to as more of a leaning more on the verb side, but we'll get to that. So let's start with 좋다, to be good. And it's used anytime we're describing something as good, and it's used with the particles 이 and 가. Now that is an important part. Keep that in your brain as we go through this. So, examples: good idea, 좋은 idea, 좋은 생각 is another way to say it. 김치가 좋아요, kimchi is good. 물이 좋아요, water is good. We can say 한국어가 좋아요, Korean is good, Korean language. 책이 좋아요, books are good, anything. But we want to use the 이 and the 가 because we're describing these things, right? So if we were to say something like 김치를 좋아요, that would be wrong, awkward, unnatural. 울 and 를 can only be used on a thing that's being acted on by something else. Like an object, right? If I am eating the kimchi, I'm acting on the kimchi, then that makes kimchi the object. 김치를 먹어요. But if I'm looking at the kimchi, I'm tasting the kimchi, I'm like, wow, 김치가 좋아요. It's really good. Then I'm describing something about it, not acting on it, just describing it. When you find yourself describing something, usually we want to use 이 or 가. And the object marker can only be used with action verbs, right? Like, remember we said this is a adjective. Some people might call it descriptive verb. It's kind of the same thing in my mind. So, therefore, if we're acting on the kimchi, doing something to the kimchi, then adding a 를 is correct. I am making kimchi. 저는 김치를 요리하고 있어요. I probably would do the word for to make more than this. 만들고 있어요. To make. 만들고 있어요. I am making kimchi. So this rule applies to all the adjectives. Can never use 울 and 를 with an adjective, right? Now, 좋아하다. 좋아하다 is sometimes, I feel like it's in between an adjective and an action verb, right? But liking is an action, so we are going to refer to it as an action verb to make that easier to explain the difference. So, it acts on things, right? So with action verbs, we usually use, not even going to say usually, we use 올 and 를. So if I like kimchi, my liking of it is acting on it, affecting it. 김치를 좋아해요. 저는 김치를 좋아해요. I like kimchi. More than that kimchi is good, I like it. When we use 좋아하다, we're saying to like. So do not use 좋아하다 to say something is good. Only use it to say that you like something. So if we're saying instead of this, 김치가 좋아해요, 땡, incorrect, unnatural. By using ga, you've made kimchi the subject of the sentence in that case, meaning that kimchi is the one doing the liking. So that's like saying kimchi likes blank. The kimchi likes me. You know, it doesn't make sense. The kimchi likes, we want to be the one liking it. So what about the exceptions? Because there's always exceptions in this language. So 좋다 can sometimes be used as to like. I know, confusing, right? 좋다 can be used for to be good and also to like. It really depends on the context though. However, 좋아하다 can only be used to say I like and can be used to say good. So 좋다 is the only one that's a little bit flexible on that. I recommend watching Go Billy's video on this because he goes into more detail about it, and I really like how he explains things. And I can only hope to one day be on his level with my Korean lessons. But yeah, I'll try to, if I remember, I'll try to link that video below as well. And I'll also link this lesson below if you want to use it as like a reference. Opposite. To hate, to dislike. 싫다 and 싫어하다. I feel like when I was first learning Korean, I heard these quite a bit, or at least saw these a little bit. But I feel like it's been so long since I've seen it or really heard it used. Of course it gets used, but I feel like I always hear 안 좋아요, 안 좋아해요 instead of these. So I'll take a second to talk about that. Koreans like to be less direct. When they're being polite, it usually means I want to be as indirect as possible. So I feel like instead of simply saying it's bad, instead of using the word 나쁘다 and saying 나빠요, it's bad, they usually will say 안 좋아요, it's not good. That's what I've noticed. Instead of saying 싫어해요, I hate it, they say 안 좋아해요. They might even add the word 별로, which it means like in particular, particularly. 별로 안 좋아해요. I don't really like it. That kind of meaning. Now, on to these two, because these do get used. These are pretty much the opposite, straight up opposite of 좋다 and 좋아하다. So 싫다 and 싫어하다 are a bit different but follow the same rules. I still kind of confuse these two, but sometimes they're used interchangeably, which is okay as long as you use the right particles, like we said earlier. So 싫다 is the adjective this time. It means something is disliked, to be disliked. And then 싫어하다 is our action verb, and it means to dislike something, an action of disliking. So they can both be used to say I don't like something, right? Just like 좋다 can be used to say I like as well as, good. It's kind of the same thing. 싫다 is descriptive verb, 싫어하다 is action verb. Okay. Yeah. So when you're speaking about your own self in the first person, you thinking that something is, worthy of your despise, your dislike, then you can use 싫다. When you're speaking about how someone else feels, 싫어하다 feels a little more appropriate to use. And this goes into a whole other thing, a whole other grammar. 하다. So I didn't go over it in this blog post, but I will explain it right now. Basically, when you're talking about, it's usually with emotions. When you're talking about how someone else feels, we add an extra 하다. So let's say I'm sad, I say 슬프다. My teacher is sad, I say 슬퍼하다. That's because I can't really speak for them, right? I'm not in their head, I'm not in their body. I don't really know, I'm not really feeling their feelings. So it's like we gotta add that extra hada for someone that's not me, how they're feeling. We have 미안하다. If I'm feeling sorry, if I'm sorry, 미안하다. Now, if, the 아저씨 who accidentally bumped into me, I might say 미안해 했어요. He was sorry. Now, I'm not him, I'm just me. So this is kind of like I'm talking about how someone else feels, right? Same thing with go 싶다. I know what I want, go 싶다. Now, but what does Timmy want? go 싶어 하다, right? That's kind of the thing with it. So if I'm happy, 행복해요. If my mom is happy, 행복해해요. My mom's happy, right? So it's a weird little concept, and these two are kind of following that. But even with these rules to follow, you can use 싫어하다 for yourself as well. I've seen a lot of native speakers use it like this. I would consider it to be two different ways to think of it, two different ways to use it. So like I said, where we're talking about someone else hating something, 싫어하다. But when we're talking about the action verb, okay, wait. My brain just clicked something together. Okay. These are adjectives, right? Stay with me. You might get lost on this journey I'm taking you on. These are all adjectives, right? Down here. And 싫다 is an adjective too, right? So when we're talking about someone else having these feelings, we add an extra 하다. So in this case, coming from the base of 싫다, we would add an extra 하다 to say someone else doesn't like something. 싫어하다. So this is actually a different form to this. I guess I didn't know that when I made this. Yeah, and I made this lesson a couple years ago. And I'm learning all the time, So now that I'm looking at it, I'm realizing they're actually two different things. So if we're doing this one, where we're using the extra a, o, 하다 grammar structure, it's actually is used to say someone else doesn't like something. And then the action verb 싫어하다 itself, I think is something different. I could be wrong, but I think it's something different entirely. Now this 싫어하다, the second one, is the verb one. The action verb one. To say, I don't like something. Right? Okay, so I think many people still use it even when talking about this. So yeah. So when we use 싫어하다, we're using 울, right? Let me add some examples down here. What do I hate? I don't really hate much, but I do hate hospitals. Okay, going there. 병원을 싫어해요. Right? Sorry, 싫어해요. I hate hospitals. Now I could say 엄마가 병원을 싫어해요. My mom hates hospitals or doesn't like hospitals. But hate just feels better, right? It's like stronger. And then 싫어요. Earlier we said kimchi was good. Let's say 김치가 싫어요. This doesn't mean kimchi is bad. It just means I don't like kimchi. Right? So I used to think when I was like a baby learning Korean, not an actual baby, but I just consider myself a baby. Like from when I first started a language, I'm like a baby in that language. So when I was a little baby, I used to think, oh, 싫어요 is just like I don't like it, and 싫어해요 is I hate it. Like 싫어해요 is just stronger. That's the difference. That's what I used to think. So that is still kind of in my head a little bit. I still, when I see them, I still think like that. 싫어해요 is a little stronger. It's not really true. So 이 and ga, on this one. 싫다, 울 and roll on this one. 싫어하다. One is an adjective, one is an action verb. So what is the true difference after all we've been through with this post? What's the true difference? I would say, for a simple explanation, we just need to change our particles when we use them. Especially with 좋다 and 좋아하다, because they can both be used to say I like something. If you want to use it to say I like something, make sure you just have your particles right. 이가 좋다, 울을 좋아하다. That's all for this lesson today. I really hope you learned something. If you did, please comment below. Comment below regardless, and maybe I'll start doing like a featured comment in my videos, and like whoever comments, I'll do like a little shout out appreciation in the next video that I make. But it would be really helpful to show YouTube that I've got some good stuff on here and show it to people who really have been looking for it and need it. And like this as well to let me know that this is a good lesson. I should keep trying to make these. Subscribe to see more. I've been posting once a week the last, I think, 3 months or so. Like, wow, pretty consistently. And I don't plan to stop. So, yeah, I will link this lesson at the end. I will link Go Billy's lesson at the end. And I will see you in the next video. 다음에 봐요.